Happy Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, October 28th, and we are starting our city charter review meeting with the special committee. So before we get started into more details, I will start with attendance. Start with myself, Judith Garcia, present. Councilor Leo Robinson.
I'm here.
Councilor Calvin Brown.
He's here.
He's here. Councilor Melinda Vega Maldonado.
Here.
Councilor Todd Taylor.
I'm here.
Great. Rosemary Carlisle.
I'm here. You can't see me, but I'm here.
Oh, I see you. Jasenia Alfaro. Absent. Henry Wilson. Alex Barcarcel.
Present.
Excellent. Mary Burke.
Present.
Great. Jason Stalker.
Present.
Charlene McLean.
Present.
And Miriam Markentor.
Present.
Excellent. So thank you everyone for joining us today. For any residents watching via Facebook or YouTube or Quorumcast 22, this is the special committee meeting for the review of the city charter, which is the most important legal document of our city. What we do is bi-weekly we meet to discuss different sections of our charter. Today, we finally reached the last section of our charter, which is section 10. So today we meet, we will discuss any suggestions, recommendations, or things we wish to see changed or implemented or added into this charter, and that will conclude in a discussion. After that, we will continue discussing and how we plan to present a formal packet to the council. That's something that we'll discuss later on, but this is a quick review of purpose and process of this committee. We sit here and we review the city charter in different sections. So today's section 10. Considering that we've discussed that, we move on to our next section of our meeting, which is any lingering questions, comments from previous sections. So today we're discussing section 10, but are there any previous lingering questions regarding other sections? We received a communication from Alex Valcarcel. I know you had some comments. You sent us a communication regarding one of the sections, so I'll give you the floor so you can explain what you would like to recommend.
I mean, as of right now, I really just want to talk about, well, when I first submitted my preamble, is it cool if I remove my mask?
You can just remove it to the side. Yeah.
All right. So I just felt bad that I didn't include a Spanish version of the preamble, so I just wanted to include that as well.
Okay, so you think we should have a preamble, bilingual preamble?
Yeah, at least, the very least, the preamble should be bilingual, or at least introduce it as a bilingual.
Okay, I completely like that. I like that suggestion. Are there any comments from any other members here regarding that suggestion? Okay, so, I see Councilor Brown. Of course, you have the floor.
Yeah, I don't see why that if we decide to do a Spanish version, that the whole charter, you could have a charter in Spanish. I don't see why you would just do a full just an introduction piece. Why don't, if you're going to make it available, why don't you just make it available? That's something we should consider. Just have a whole charter in Spanish also available. My comment.
Yeah, great, and you raise a good point, because I know that we do have a charter in Spanish that we did dig up. I believe it's from 2005 or 10, 2010, and yeah. We are actively working on submitting a finalized, revamped Spanish translation of it completely. We have that one circling around. For any residents who are watching, you can also find it online. We have the Spanish charter, so thank you, Councilor Brown, for bringing that up, and let's hope to include any changes that we decide to include once this packet and this final initiative is completed. So I'll add this to the significant number of recommendations that we have for every other section, so like that when we get to review and actually start coming together to discuss what we plan to present to council, we can consider this as well as part of those recommendations. So thank you. Is there anything else you want to add? Alex?
At the moment, no.
Okay, great. Awesome. Any other comments, questions from anyone here? Cool. So now we move on to public speaking portion. Public speaking portion, we have no one here, and we did not receive any communications from anyone from the public. So now we move on to review section 10. So I'm sure all of you had ample time to read section 10, which is half a page. I did not receive any communications from anyone. Does anyone here have any comments, concerns regarding section 10? And allow me to remind you, section 10 is just the continuation of existing laws, continuation of obligations, and it includes a comparative table. Any comments? Any lingering thoughts? No? Great, so that was quick for the review of section 10 and the discussion for that. So now we move on to something that I do want to cover with this special committee, and that is our action steps going forward. So the reason why I'm going to meet with all of you is because I want to be able to establish a clear timeline of how we plan to coordinate our schedules going forward in terms of submitting a packet to council. As you know, the role of the special committee is for us to submit one single package to the council with our collective recommendations of any suggestions, edits that we would like to see on our charter. We need to do that as a collective. So I have compiled every single note that everyone has submitted. I've compiled it with Fatima. We will be sending out those packets to all of you to review, and we will sit and take the next meetings, which I hope should be anywhere between 3 to 5, 6 meetings to finally submit something to the council. So that being said, I thought of some dates for those discussions to begin, and those discussions will be more hands-on what we plan to present. So for the month of November has, I initially had thought of Wednesday, November, keeping the Wednesday timeline, Wednesday at 6 p.m., and having 2 dates for November. My initial thought was November 4th, which is the first Wednesday of November, and then Wednesday, November 18th. However, what I'm hearing from some suggestions that I've already heard is that November 4th may be a bit conflicting because of election. So I will let all of you chime in if November 4th, if you think November 4th would be a conflict. Jason.
Well, I just have two other events that night. I can't already scheduled.
Okay. So Councilor Brown. I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I agree somewhat with Jason. It's just too quickly to just, it's a week away. It's less than a week away to have a meeting such as this important. I think, we've done some of the things, we've done the first thing that's required of us to review the charter, and we have definitely reviewed it and definitely made some recommendations. And I think we're going in the right direction with the timeline of setting dates for previous investigation and reviewing and offering. So, but I just think next Tuesday is too quick. Next Wednesday is too quickly. It's less than a week away. It's a week away.
Perfect. Got it. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Councilor Brown. Charlene.
I agree. I think next Tuesday or next Wednesday would be very difficult. And the 11th is a city holiday, correct?
Yep. So that's.
So what I mean is would there be any objection to having on the 18th and the 25th if we think we need 2 meetings to do this?
So actually no. So these are my thoughts. My thoughts are 25th is off the books because I know that Thanksgiving is the next day, and I would be mindful of that. So The only options that I have now is the 4th and the 18th. But the 4th, I'm hearing you all loud and clear. So what we'll do is, and this is game plan, it would be, we'll have one meeting November 18th, Wednesday, November 18th. We'll have one meeting for the month of November, and then we will have December, all of December. So we'll have a meeting on Wednesday, December 2nd, Wednesday, December 9th, Wednesday, December 16th. And we can move that on to January, if need be. Is that, and then again, all of this, I'm trying to be as flexible so you can have clear expectations of what to expect between November and December as we move into the new year. Jason.
I know you're trying to stick with Wednesdays, but if the Wednesdays in November just don't work, is there a reason why we don't try to do a Tuesday or a Thursday or some other day in the month of November?
So Tuesdays are very difficult because some of the council members, that's when we have Tuesdays. Mondays, Tuesdays tend to be our big day for subcommittees.
Okay.
So it's difficult to conflict, and considering that everyone's schedule for Wednesday for the past months have worked, then I'm thinking it should be fine to keep it Wednesday if that's okay for everyone. Wednesday at 6.
Okay.
Great. So we'll do that. What I'll do is I'll circle around the specific dates so you can see them written down. So far for the month of November, we're only meeting once, November 18th. We'll submit this to the public so the public can be aware as well and just know what we'll be discussing. By Wednesday, November 18th, every single one of you will have a packet in front of you with all your recommendations, everything you suggested. When you come back to this meeting on November 18th, we'll actually be discussing what we plan to present to the council. Councilor Brown. Muted. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so you just said something. You said you'll submit something to the public so they'll be aware. What are you talking about?
No, we're not submitting anything to the public. What I'm saying is we're going to submit all this information, the dates that we're meeting,
Okay.
So the public can be informed of what dates we're meeting starting November and December.
Okay.
We need to put this on public record, what dates we're meeting ahead of time.
Yeah, okay. So I got to think, is it possible that we could actually have a open public meeting just because we're going into this last part of what we've already recommended and talked about, and just have the public maybe attend City Hall or open it up to City Hall for the public? Is that possible?
Yeah, I'm sure we can facilitate after, once, I think we can do that work in the back end to see what we can do to open it. Obviously, all our meetings, and I need to be fully transparent, I know Cheryl's on the line as well, all our meetings are open to the public, so the public can come here, and we're giving COVID-19 times, we're trying to make it as accessible as possible by live streaming through Facebook and live streaming through these other outlets. But in terms of making it a little bit more of a public forum, I think that's what I'm hearing from you. I'm sure that we can try to work something out with our staff here at City Hall to make it more of a public setting where people can feel. But again, it'll be considering the restrictions with COVID.
But I hear you on the restrictions, but we as city council members, we've actually had city hall meetings, city council meetings, where there have been numbers of folks in there. And if we just extend it, I just thinking if we extend it and they feel that they can come to the city hall and hear us in this kind of form, whether we're online or whether we show up. I mean, we should make some attempt.
Yeah, I totally hear that. I mean, no one's stopping any resident to come and hear the discussion. The thing is that they won't be able to actively participate on what is written or not written in our package, because then that was the president of the council selected all of you and appointed all of you to be a part of this committee, so all of you can have input on the packet that we're presenting. The public is open to share any comments, and we've actually had people come here to share their perspectives and give us ideas on what can be added, but they're not going to be a part of like the sitting at the table process of actually writing it down with us, because then that can get, as you can imagine, that could be too many conversations going on and stopping us from really making the critical decisions that we need to make to have a final packet submitted. But obviously, we're not discouraging the public from coming, and I want to make that clear. This
Okay.
is open meetings. People can come here. People have come here to give their feedback. It's in a public setting. People can actually come and witness this and watch us talk and
So
our discussions. Yeah.
Okay, my last problem of this question is, so is there any requirement that we have a public meeting, or will we be doing it at a later date?
May I respond?
Yes.
There is no requirement. City Councilor Brown, you are only making a recommendation to the full city council.
Right.
If the city council has to hold public hearings to make changes to the charter, because the legislature won't accept anything that goes home rule petition to change the charter without public hearings, one. Two, some of the changes may require public vote.
Okay, that's why.
Okay, and even though we have had people in City Hall, we still need to be mindful of the crowds we have allowed in City Hall. So we have to be careful by inviting large crowds to City Hall because of COVID-19 restrictions.
Thank you, Cheryl.
And
go ahead.
also, the city council can make changes once that gets to the city council.
Yeah, yeah, and that's.
Well, the city council has the authority to make their own recommendations clearly. But really what's before the city council is the charter review recommendation. The council would do their own processes to change the charter. They can change the charter whenever they want to and have a process done.
Yeah, and just for the clarification also of the public, the idea is that this body, this committee that was appointed is the one who is sitting down, reaching a consensus of what suggestions we want to present to council in a single packet. So, so that's what, in case anyone at home is just wondering what that is. So that being said, yes.
Madam Chair, I understand that, but also we're making recommendations. We've made recommendations. I think in a full form, we should still extend to the public that these are the recommendations that we'll be forwarding to the city council. And maybe at that form, they may have some kind of, discussion, well, whether they like it or not, or it's just in a public opinion. That's all it is, non-binding.
Yeah, of course. And we've welcomed those public opinions throughout these meetings. So I see Mary Burke, and then I see Charlene Mary.
So can I just repeat what I heard, just so I make sure that I have the process down correctly? So, so certainly the dates, the 18th, the 2nd, the 9th, and the 16th, we're going to be meeting. You are going to provide us before November 18th, a full set of all recommendations that have come forward. On the 18th, we will start to discuss those recommendations with the intent that a full packet would be developed for the city council. Now, what happens when we have two conflicting points of view on a portion of that goes into the full packet? Are we looking for a majority vote of this committee, or are we looking for a consensus vote or a 2/3 vote? What's the process to getting to that packet that ultimately goes to the city council?
Great. Cheryl, I'll let you answer that question.
So this committee may decide its own process. It's not written in stone. You're not a city council meeting. I mean, majority tends to rule. But if you wish to present you can present what you want to the city council. This is your review. It's that goes before them. They may ignore it. They may put it forward, put some of them forward. It's just your recommendation, and still there will be public input and public process after that. This is just a report provided. So if you, for example, want to change the preamble, and you want in the English version, as what was presented to you, both an English paragraph and a Spanish paragraph, which is different, what was presented to you tonight, than a separate Spanish charter. you could give those alternatives to the city council also. So I'm just saying is that it's how you want it. If you want it to be 2/3 vote, because it is a charter that we're trying to change as opposed to any ordinance, that's the process that you put forth. So I think tonight is that you decide upon the process by which you are going to vote on what goes before the city council.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. And that was a great question, Mary. I will let Charlene go, then Alex, then Councilor Brown. Charlene.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to speak to what Calvin just mentioned about as we're deliberating the recommendations to make to the city council. Calvin, if I understood you correctly, you were saying that we should, during that process, we should be allowing the public to provide comments. The public has already had their input. They've had the opportunity at every single one of these meetings to let us know what they think. I think my understanding of what we're doing now is this committee is developing recommendations to send to the city council. The city council will then deliberate those recommendations, discuss changes of their own, and if I understand processes correctly, the public will, at that point, have another opportunity to comment at the city council meetings or by reaching out to you councilors individually. For our deliberations, as has been pointed out, the public is certainly welcome to either attend in person or dial into these meetings, but they will not have a role in providing comments. The development of the package is up to us as a committee. And that's all I wanted to say on that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlene. I'll let Alex.
So hypothetically, I could present something aside from like this committee if I wanted to?
So you're a part of this body and you're a part of this committee, so anything you want to present, you have to do it here.
Okay.
Through us, so we can include it and as a collective reach a consensus of what we plan to present. So all of this, Mary, I appreciate it and thank you for asking that question. I think now we should proceed to really cover, as we wrap up this meeting, I think we've covered key things, which are timeline of dates. I will send you those timeline of dates that we have in mind in order to continue reviewing. And again, remember that we have ample time to submit something for council. Ideally, if we had the November meeting established, I was planning to be a bit aggressive and have something to council by December 21st. But considering the delay of the holidays and the delay of the election this year, realistically speaking, we won't have something for council until January of next year. So that gives us ample room, and I don't want anyone to feel pressured that you have to submit something immediately. So I think between six to 8 meetings that we may have or not, we should be able to submit something in January. If it takes longer, then that's fine. So that being said, I see 2 hands. I do want to, before we go on topics that we've already discussed, I do want to put it in your mind that before we end this meeting today, I want to establish a consensus of how we plan to decide our process for the November 18th meeting. So just putting that in your mind right now, because Cheryl and Mary have brought up this great point. So I'll go with Jason and then Councilor Brown. Jason.
Well, that's what my question was going to be. I wanted to talk through your expectations for what we were going to speak to on the 18th and kind of solidify that 18th meeting so we're not wasting this time.
Yeah, perfect. So Councilor Brown.
This kind of question for Cheryl. Cheryl, you said, I thought I heard you say something in likeness to this. If there's something right now that we have made recommendations to that's inconsistent with the charter, that I thought you said the city council may have to vote on it. Is that something that we should be aware of before we start putting this piece that we're going to discuss?
So, once you make a decision on what your recommendation is going to be for the city council, my office and I need to review the legal path of how to change the charter, which is different than what you decide. So most things may be inconsistent. That's the whole point about changing the charter, right? But you make that recommendation. So if you're recommending a change in the form of government, the path to that would be to the voters. If you're adding grammatical changes, the path to that is probably not even, it's just an adoption, the public process that the council goes through, but it's not really a vote by the residents. So there were different methods within this that the city council will have to review once it goes to the city council. So I'm not quite sure what you're asking me. What you recommend is what you as a committee decided. The city council then reviews it and debates it and has a public process over it. And then it still doesn't change the charter because some of it may have to go to the voters and it all has to go to the state legislature.
Great. Does that answer your question, Councilor Brown?
Yeah.
Great. Mary?
So two things. So what I'm hearing is if it's issues of substance, then that's going to have to go before us in terms of a vote and then to the city council. If it's issues of housekeeping, grammatical changes, being consistent throughout the document, then that may not be the big issues. But what I was wondering is, Cheryl, is there a place for your office once Judith and her team compile the list of all the recommendations? Could you go through it first and take out or draw a line through any recommendations that are counter to law? Because we shouldn't be wasting our time voting on things that are against the law.
So I think there might have been just one issue that may be a little illegal or in direct conflict with the state quarry laws and the changes in the quarry laws that we have. But otherwise, I have not heard anything that would be illegal presented, but we will review the actual packet, which is nice that we're not doing this for next week, to give you an idea or to give you, for example, on the quarry thing, what you could do and could not do, because that may be something that you want to consider.
Right.
Okay, so I think that's a great idea in terms of process. I will compile I will compile everything that we've discussed in the past months with our administrative assistants. I will have Cheryl's office, the city solicitor's office, give it a view before every member of this committee receives it for discussion and for final recommendations. So do we reach consensus there? Is everyone clear on that? I see Leo Robinson, Councilor
Just
Robinson.
a question back to Cheryl. Does the issue that I think you're referring to was the one that Roy brought up in regards to wanted to do a background check even though people had closed cases, but the Corey laws prevent us from doing anything like that?
So actually, that's actually state law around sealed records, right? We can't unseal a record. I can't view it. So the mechanisms in order to go around, to know and to process a candidate are not there for the city, and it may be impossible. So that's one of them that we would definitely recommend a change to. I mean, it might be, I believe there was one, Councilor Robinson, that you mentioned about redistricting. Or changing the lines. There's a process for that, and I want to make sure that we have it, that everyone's aware of it when we do it, that there's a process when you want to change who represents what areas in Chelsea. If you recall, it can be a long process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great. Mimi?
Thank you. How do we present it to the council? Do they just get a package, or do we present it and say, give our reasons or anything like that?
Cheryl, do you want to tackle that? I mean, I can give the dry answer, but you, go ahead. I'll give you the floor.
So, you want the council to seriously consider it, and to adopt it. It's always good to have a redlined copy of the charter so that they can see the changes that you're requesting. But, the vote is actually per section, per line, like we adopt anything else, on the city council. So there would be an actual, if the council wishes to take it up for vote, we would change, we would write what their votes would entail, but really you're recommending a change to this section, this line, this way, sort of how you wrote a lot of them. But I would recommend that each change is separate so that the council can take up one versus another. The council, it's up to them to what they want to put on the floor to vote and to present to a public hearing. You need 7 councilors to support something to go through the charter process.
So we just give them a package.
7 or 8, huh?
My understanding is we just give them a package of our recommendations highlighted, but we don't physically present no charts, no graphs, no. They just get our work.
They may request a subcommittee meeting with you to discuss it, but the council is on the committee to present your work if that's necessary. You could show up at a city council meeting also.
That's great. And I mean, it'd be lovely to have all of you when we do present the package. I'm sure that my colleagues agree.
You can designate somebody other than the council to present.
Yeah. We can. There's ways that we can figure it out, but let's cross that bridge when we get there. Let's start with establishing, the packet itself. But most importantly, before this meeting ends, let's establish very clear rules on how we plan to agree on our process. So in terms of majority vote, is it 2/3 vote? Are there any thoughts? And Cheryl, are there 3 options that are the most popular? I'm assuming there's a 2/3 vote. What are the 2 options?
A majority or 2/3. So it would be a majority of the quorum that is present the night you're voting on these recommendations, right? Or you could do a 2/3 vote of the entire committee makeup. I don't know how many people are actually on this committee, but yes.
So there's.
And it's important that everybody appears at the next couple of meetings if you're going to put something to vote.
I agree with that very much, Mary.
Michelle, can it be a 2/3 supermajority of those present? Like, so does it's similar to the majority of the quorum? Can it be 2/3 of those present that night?
That's up to you guys. I mean, that's not normal, but that's up to you guys.
Okay, I see Todd Taylor. I hope this is a comment regarding this. Go ahead, Todd Taylor.
You hope it's a comment regarding this?
I said I hope it's regarding this, but you can go ahead and comment regarding whatever you want.
Thank you. So, look, we're only making a recommendation. I don't see any need for anything other than a majority vote on any thing. I think that's, I doubt that we'll be here till next spring if we decide to have a 2/3 majority on anything, I think. But this is only a recommendation to the city council, so I see no need to do anything other than just a simple majority vote on each thing, because it is just a recommendation. I had one question for Cheryl.
Of course, go ahead.
You were talking about changing the representation and that there's a long process to that. That's only in certain cases of what that change would be. So, for instance, we were talking about going back and doing ward counselors instead of district counselors. That would not, in fact, be a long process since the ward lines already exist, correct?
Someone keeps muting me. That's correct. So I think it would be as long, so you have to understand, that's still a change that would have to be approved by the state legislature, right? So that I always consider a long time, but it's not
no
as
redrawing
long.
of lines and no, you know, that
Yeah,
doesn't
I agree.
necessarily.
That would be simpler because we're not redrawing the lines. I agree with you.
Okay.
But there's a possibility that we would have to draw the lines because we have to have equal number of voters in each district.
Correct.
And the census is probably gonna.
But the wards, I think, are already. But I think the wards already have to abide by those restrictions, don't they? Aren't the wards supposed to have an equal number of voters anyway?
When they were drawn, they did.
Okay, but I mean that gets updated with each census, correct?
Yes, 10 years ago, exactly.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
You know. All right, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Great.
I just got a very comment. With the ward representation, you only have 4 wards. So if you have 8 district councilors where we have now, you would still have to indicate more than what you would like to see as a ward councilor. You can see, for instance, a ward councilor would be for Ward 1 and 2, and Ward 2B councilor would be from 2 and 3. So because you only have 4 wards, you'd have to create 8 wards if you wanted to stay with an 8 district council representation and 3 at large, or if you wanted to change it somewhere else. That's just a thought.
Great. So great conversations, and this is a perfect time to just remind members of the committee that if there is something that you feel strongly about in terms of ward or changing the number of representatives in terms of council, you can submit this as well via writing, and I'll be happy to add it to the recommendations so we can talk about it and dissect it more as we continue on these next meetings before we present the final package. For now, I see Mary, but I do want to get to the point of us agreeing on process. So Mary.
Yeah, actually, that's where I'm going back to. So, going back to,
stay there.
Yes, majority. What's the responsibility of this committee? We've put a great deal of time into this process. I think we began in June. I can't remember, but and we've got a couple of months in front of us. I think it needs to be a 2/3 vote. And it's not just that it's recommendations going forward to the city council. That minimizes our investment in this and our view of how important our city charter is. Our vote on these recommendations is what we believe should go forward for the next 10 years. And so I would want 2/3 of a vote of this committee for the recommendations to go forward to the city council. I'm just wrestling with, is it 2/3 of those present or 2/3 of everyone?
I must say, Mary, I also agree with you in terms of the 2/3 vote. My only hesitation of doing it of members present is that we have not had a consistent attendance rate with some members. Some of you have been outstanding, and I really appreciate your participation and your attendance. It's reflected each time I take it, but others not so much. So that is my only hesitation in terms of, as you've said, many of you have put in so much time in the last couple of months in meeting and sitting here and really putting in your opinions. So that's where the challenge is. Is it 2/3 of a simple majority is it 2/3 of the majority here, or is it 2/3 of those present? So I'll leave that to discussion here. Jason.
I think I'm with Councilor Taylor. I think a majority is easy enough. I think if we start getting, there's still a whole nother level of approvals that need to go through this. If we're looking for 2/3 and people aren't attending and we can't get it, that means that nothing can move forward at all for even further discussions. I think all we're approving is we think these are solid enough recommendations to go to the city council. The city council can have conversations amongst themselves on what they think is important and valuable, and then then it's being opened up to the residents to have open dialogue with the city councilors on it. And so I think there's other levels of continued conversations to happen. We're just the first hurdle in getting somewhere. And so for us to have a 2/3 vote, I think we're stopping those conversations from happening.
Thanks, Jason. That's a good point. Anyone else, Leo? Charlene? Mute.
I
Okay.
don't have any real strong feelings one way or another as to whether it's a simple majority or 2/3 majority, but I do think it needs to be whatever majority we go with of the quorum present that evening. I think, if you make it of the whole group, while that's ideal, the reality has been, I know I've had to miss meetings because of work, as have other people. And I think that could slow things down even more if it's of the entire group present. So I majority, whichever way the rest of you decide, because again, I don't feel strongly, but make it of the quorum present the night of that discussion.
Great.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. I see Councilor Todd Taylor. You're on mute.
Sorry, having problems with this mute button.
It's okay.
So every board that exists in this city operates the same way. I see no reason for us to create some new, procedure, or standard for this board as well. I think a majority of the quorum is what decides the issue. And I believe, Councilor Robinson, you might correct me if I'm wrong, or Cheryl, if past charter review boards had a 2/3 vote, I'm not aware of it.
Who wants to take it?
Cheryl? I think just to, raise the issue, there's been a couple meetings where we just barely had a quorum. So I think we have to look at the most votes of those nights that when people show up, this much, if it's, trying to get to, a certain number, we're never gonna get there if we run into situations where we just barely get by with a quorum.
Okay. Mary?
So I do know most decisions are made by the majority vote. However, important decisions in both school committees, city council, et cetera, those are the most important decisions. Would you require a supermajority? However, I do agree we could do the 2/3 of those who are present.
Okay. Okay, so the two options I have are 2/3 of those who are present and majority of those who are present. I see Jason, go ahead.
Can Cheryl answer Councilor Taylor's question on what previous charter review committees have done around taking approvals?
She was muted. Sure, you're muted.
So I can't answer that question because I don't know. I recall I wasn't there for the vote. So I've been involved with one charter review commission in the years that I've been here, and most of what was sent to the city council was gender changes or making the charter gender neutral. So maybe things didn't pass. I don't know what happened in that meeting. I believe they set their own rules. I really don't know.
Cheryl, I'm curious about, before covering this, either the 2/3 or majority of the quorum, if there was ever a scenario where we reached a tie, let's say folks are divided half and half on a specific debate, how, not debate, I shouldn't say that. I should say, you know, folks are divided on a specific recommendation. How is that handled?
So if it's tied, it was not passed. So it's not an issue that either side can favorably put before the city council.
So then we move on and do not change that?
It failed.
It fails.
As a counselor yourself, if you wish to, counselors may bring them, or 10 members of the community can petition before the city council, but this committee cannot, I should not. You, of course, can set your own rules, but on average, if a motion does not pass by one vote, you know, by a majority or by the 2/3, then it's it fails.
Okay. Charlene, I saw your hand up.
Nope, Cheryl answered my question.
Okay, Mimi. You're on mute, Mimi.
Yeah, hi. How many were the original members of the committee? How many, what was the original number?
So the original number is 13 as of today, but.
Okay, is there ways to decide people who might not be eligible to vote if they didn't attend enough meetings?
That is up to the president of the council to decide in terms of.
We can't do that rule.
Yeah, so we cannot. It's the council president who appointed every single member here. So it is the council president who decides.
Okay.
Or you could have made that rule at the beginning so that people were aware there was a rule.
Okay, well then I agree with Mary that I would like it to be 2/3 of the people who were attending that evening. I think I want a super majority, and I agree that it would be simpler if we just did it that night. This is a very...
2/3 of members present.
Correct. That's what I like.
Okay, I'm with that as well. Alex?
Out of curiosity, what's 2/3 of our current membership?
Right now, today, as of today, our 2/3 is, how many folks do we have here today? We have base 13, we have 12 present. So 2/3 of that would be seven, isn't it 7? 8. It'd be 8. Okay, great. So that being said, do we reach a consensus? Majority, and this is precisely why we have to decide today. Councilor Brown. Councilor Brown, you're muted.
No, I'm sorry. I think it's, you know, what we're going to run into is we're going to run into where you don't reach that 2/3 and you're going to be stuck all night. And I think the spirit of it is you're going to want to pass whatever we're trying to pass or debating or talking. So we just have to get this to the city council, the public, maybe, and just let them have some say so on it. I think, again, by setting the standard on any given night, if you take one of the 2 of the folks that's not speaking on the forum tonight, you're probably going to need 8 folks, and you're only going to have 7 as live. So, you know, let's
just... Okay, so you're with the majority.
I'm with the majority just for the spirit of getting it into the city council and also so the public can hear it.
Okay, so let's do that. Instead of going around in circles, I'm going to go around asking everyone what they support. So I'll start in order of attendance. I'll start with Judith. I am with 2/3. Leo Robinson, would you prefer majority or 2/3?
Just a regular number of votes that makes it pass.
Majority? Yeah. Majority of those present. Calvin Brown, you said majority of those present?
Yes.
Okay, Melinda Vega Maldonado. Melinda Vega Maldonado, she on the line?
Yeah, but they have to unmute themselves.
Melinda, can you unmute yourself? Okay. Councilor Todd Taylor?
Yeah, majority.
Majority, okay.
Majority as well for me.
For Melinda, is that Melinda?
Yes.
Okay, Rosemary Carlisle, majority or 2/3?
Majority.
Okay. Is Jasenia on the line? She's absent. Henry Wilson absent?
Henry Wilson's here.
Oh, Henry Wilson's here. Henry Wilson, would you like to support a majority process Majority of those present or 2/3 of those present?
He's unmuted himself.
Can you unmute yourself? Henry? Okay, we move on. Alex, majority or 2/3?
Majority.
Majority. Okay, Mary Burke?
2/3 of present.
2/3? Okay, of present. Jason?
Majority?
Majority?
Yes.
Okay, Charlene? Majority or 2/3?
Majority,
Okay, and Mimi?
2/3 present.
2/3. So far I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 voted in favor of majority, and 1, 2, 3 in favor of 2/3. So in this case, I will say that majority wins in terms of I shouldn't say wins, but majority rules in terms of process. Mary?
Just to point out, the 8 is the 2/3.
Yeah, majority wins by 2/3 vote.
That was a good one. Thank you, Barry. Okay. So in terms of agreeing in process, November 18th, we will send everyone a schedule of future meetings. We'll start November 18th. You will have a packet in front of you of all the recommendations that you've made, and we will do our process by majority vote. Jason, I saw you have your hand up.
So are we going to discuss are we going through by sections again? Are we just going to start talking and just keep talking until 2 hours is up? I guess what's our expectations for being prepared to debate, negotiate, vote on a particular night, on a particular piece?
Yeah, so what we'll do is, because it is 10 sections that we've already discussed, you've already read, you're already familiar with, once I present that packet, it will be the entire packet of all the recommendations, and what we'll do is, on day 1, we'll go section 1, 2, 3. And we'll have we'll do section 1, 2, 3, so we don't need like a specific meeting for a specific section. We'll cover several sections in one night and continue that discussion until we'll book 2 hours. If the conversation is not, if we don't agree on a consensus within those 2 hours, we'll move it to the next meeting and we'll proceed that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so are you going to outline those sections for review when you send us the meeting dates?
Yes, I will make that very clear in the outline. The meeting dates, these are the sections that we plan to review.
Okay.
Leo, you have a comment?
Well, my comment was, so why don't we take the things that that people have recommended to change,
Yes.
and deal with those as opposed to going back and going through the, charter.
No, we're not going through the charter, that's what we're doing. So the packet that you'll have in front of you is just the packet of any recommendations that you send. It's not the charter. What you will have in front of you is everything you've sent my way, and to this body saying, these are the changes I want to see implemented. That's what you will have in front of you, a packet of those recommendations that every single one of you has made. It won't be the charter. You can use the charter to reference those points, but you'll have in front of you those recommendations. So you'll have that packet on November 18th, and you'll have a very clear outline of the dates that we'll be meeting and what sections we'll be covering that day. I see Todd, is that Todd Taylor? Todd Taylor.
So I just want to make it clear, you're saying that the packet's going to consist of the things that were written to you or the things that were actually brought up during the meetings?
So the packet is everything, every single one of you submitted recommendations during these past 10 meetings that we've had. So many of you, some of you did, some of you didn't. You sent recommendations saying, I want to see a change in section 3.4 dash, etc., and this is what I want to see implemented. That's the compilation of documents that you're going to get in front of you November 18th. So we're just going to be discussing with every single one of you who have suggested.
So that will not include any of the suggestions that were brought up during the meetings that were not submitted in writing? That's what I'm concerned about, because I think we did spend a lot of time going through different ideas and objections to those ideas or whatever it is that may not have been submitted in writing. I mean, I don't know if anybody was taking notes on the meeting or what, but maybe it would be a good suggestion that if we're only going to be doing the ones that were submitted in writing, for everybody to kind of go back over and resubmit things that you didn't submit in writing, but you mentioned in a meeting.
Yeah, so that's why I made it very clear when we met during this meeting, said any changes that you want to implement were asked to be submitted in writing so everyone can see it and know about it. However, if that's why I'm saying now, if you have anything else that you're passionate about, that you want to see changed, it's not late to submit it. You can submit it in writing. The point is, it has to be submitted in writing so our colleagues can see it and we can have it transparently. So if Jason comes up with an idea of something that he wants to see implemented in section 3 that wasn't submitted before, you can submit it now so we can include it into that package. Does that make sense? Jason?
Well, to piggyback off of Councilor Taylor, I think though we had some great conversations during our meetings. Sometimes we started off in one place and we had some consensus that it should be adjusted to the following. And so have those notes not been taken? And I'm just saying, so we started with someone writing something and saying, whatever, right? And then we had some dialogue on it. And this group, I think, decided, oh yeah, I think it's better now that we talked through it, that now we remove the section and add this sentence instead. Like, so was all of those conversations for naught, and now we have to try to think back? I would just, there's no record of that conversation or those suggested changes?
We do have records of those conversations, Jason. We have records of those conversations, and that will be included during the moment of the discussion of that section. So again, these recommendations will be edited and we will include within that specific section any other feedback that you want to see implemented. So it's not like we're just gonna vote on that recommendation, shut it on or shut it off. Does that make sense?
No, but I know that we'll have still some additional dialogue opportunities, but I think were any proposed changes that we had during our last 6 months of conversations captured? I think that's what we're trying.
We have notes of everything.
So those will be addressed even if they weren't submitted in writing?
We have notes of it and you will have it present. You will have it by November 18th, the notes.
Okay, I think that's, okay, that clears up, I think, okay, that's clear now, thank you.
Mary.
Judith, if I could recommend maybe the November 18th, all of us spend maybe the first 10 to 15 minutes going through the document. I mean, if we get them before the 18th, we should do it as a homework assignment before. But maybe we spend time each individually going through it and just making sure from our memory that everything is included. Because I know that, certainly from the verbal conversations, you'll include that. From the written submittals, you'll include that. But human nature being what it is, I'm sure there might be a couple of things that we forget in addition to be included, in addition to any new things that come up. So maybe it's on the agenda, the first 15 minutes is devoted to just going through the documents to make sure it's complete, and then we work off of the complete. We do a consensus vote at that point that it is complete, so we can move forward from that point.
Yeah, no, and thank you, Mary. The idea is you will have these packets before the 18th. So, and that's the idea. It's you read it before, so by the 18th, if there's any lingering questions, any comments, but I want you to be familiarized with the packet in front of you with your own recommendations prior to the 18th meeting. So that's the idea, but I'm happy to have those 10 to 15 minutes to get well-versed or answer any lingering questions regarding process or regarding any questions that you may have in terms of format. But yeah, we'll have it ideally, I think we can have it the week before the 18th.
So in theory, I can submit additional changes up until the 18th, correct?
Yes. Wait, what additional changes?
Like any recommendations that I have about say section 1 or 2?
Yes, if you want to add anything else, you can send it my way, and that goes to everyone. If there's anything pending that you want to add before the 18th, you can go ahead and submit it.
It has to be submitted before the 18th. So
Yeah, exactly, before the 18th. So the deadline would be prior to the 18th.
Tomorrow.
Prior to the 18th.
It's already been submitted.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? No? No questions, no concerns or comments? Okay, so everyone, before the 18th, the week before the 18th, you will all have the packets in front of you. I look forward to seeing everyone on the 18th, and we will start the process by the majority of those present in agreeing with any recommendations that we discussed that day. So I'll send all those items to you before then, including the schedule of when we will plan to meet. That will be also public record. We will submit this for everyone in the public to know what days we will be meeting and what sections we will be discussing those specific days. Before we go, Jason.
Is the packet being submitted to us electronically, or are you mailing us paper stuff?
we can do both.
We can do both. We'll email all of you to see what your preference is.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Any other questions, concerns? Mimi?
Henry Wilson.
No? Okay.
Has left the meeting.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.